Welcome back to Nerf Diagnostic and Repair. I am your host, Captain Xavier, and today we're going to be covering 3 blasters because they're going to be pretty quick. Hopefully there'll be some useful information in here for you. The first one was sent to me by Calvin Delancey. It was a stampede that just wasn't working. And so first thing I checked was the battery tray, because that's generally a really good place to start on electronic blasters, because if batteries were left in it too long, or any water got in there, or it was just stored somewhere really moist, the leads on the battery pack can corrode, and then it won't get a solid connection and it won't work. And there was some corrosion on this one. I'm not entirely sure that this is the one he sent me. He sent it to me a while ago, and it got mixed in with my other stampedes, but this was the one that I grabbed that wasn't working when I pulled it off the shelf. So I just replaced the battery pack with one that I pulled from a spare that I had, because I've got lots of spare parts and I keep battery trays, and swapped out the battery tray, and that was enough to get it working. So this is the one I'll be sending back to him, whether it was the one he sent to me in the first place. He'll be getting this one back, and it works. So there you go. On electronic blasters, definitely check the battery tray, check for corrosion. If there is corrosion, you can either take a very fine file or sandpaper to the leads and try to clear off enough of the corrosion so that the batteries will make contact. If you have the option to simply replace them, then you can do that. I have that luxury. You might not. So there are other ways of taking corrosion off. I believe WD-40 is actually fairly good at taking some corrosion off. There are also some acids that are very good at taking corrosion off, but those are probably things for more advanced people, and you should probably make sure that you either are an adult or have an adult present. And if you are an adult, do some research, make sure you got the right protection, some kind of a respirator or at least a mask, and do it outside if you're going to be working with caustic chemicals. But that will get the corrosion off, if you're not able to just sand it or file it off. So there you go. That's the first one down. The next one that was sent to me was this Tech Target Eliminator, and it is one of the original ones that was barreled for old Mega, the original Mega darts, and so he attempted to re-barrel it, and what he used was the steel pipe from an old military surplus tent. And it was exactly the right size metal to fit in the barrel, so it definitely re-barreled it, but it was slightly too big inside diameter for Nerf darts, and most would just fall out or wouldn't get a good seal and wouldn't fire at all. So he sent it to me to ask me if I could bore it out with my drill bit, and I decided to give it a try. At first I was worried that the metal would be too thin, but it turned out it was actually quite thick. And I was in fact able to re-barrel it with my 17/32 drill bit, and so now it will quite snugly fit 17/32 brass. You'll probably want to use super glue or something just to make sure it gets a really good seal. But it friction fits in beautifully, so he will be able to brass that with whatever length brass barrel he wants when I send it back to him. He didn't ask me to brass it, he just asked me to bore it out. And so the lesson here is one about tools. Having the right tools can make all of the difference in the world. And since I do a lot of brass barrels, I sought out a 17/32 drill bit, and I could not find one in any hardware store. I could find the size right below it and the size right above it, but nobody carried 17/32. So I was able to order it online. So you Google 17/32 drill bit, and you can probably find it on Amazon or eBay, or I think I got it on eBay. And it will save you a lot of trouble. Now, the one that I have is a little bit less modular, I suppose, than I would like. And that is because it came with a very thick shaft that will not fit in most standard drills. So it won't fit in my cordless drill or my heavy plug-in drill. The only thing I have that it will fit in is my drill press. Now, the only thing I ever want to use it in is my drill press. But if you don't have a drill press, that could be a bit of a problem for you. By comparison, this drill bit, which is one size up, so it's actually bigger, has the smaller shaft that will fit in standard drills. So this cranked open as far as it will go will fit this, which I think is 9/16. but will not fit the 17/32. So you either need to make sure that you can find a 17/32 inch drill bit that has the larger, or has the smaller shaft, or you're going to need to make sure that you have a drill that can accept the larger shaft. So that is the lesson there. Having the right tools makes the job much, much easier. This one was sent to me by Daniel Lindsley. I think I also did a Stampede upgrade for him. That took me like a year. Sounds like something that I would do. It could be someone completely different. Anyway, this has been, the barrel has been bored out, so I will be getting this back to you. And thank you for sending it. And finally, and this one might prove to be the tricky one, somebody sent me a reflex to repair. I don't know exactly what the problem is, but it's definitely not working. So we're going to pop it open and see what on earth he did to it. And see if I can undo it. Worst case scenario, I have quite a few of these. And I can just replace it. But hopefully we don't have to. Missing a couple of screws, and it's missing its sling mount, which the fact that the reflex has a sling mount is marvelous. Alright, so let's see what's going on in here. The catch spring has been thoroughly mangled somehow. That's probably not helping things, so we're going to replace that. Here's a lesson in materials. It's good to have the right parts on hand. I collect parts from any blaster that I disassemble. If a blaster is scrapped for parts or used as an integration or anything along those lines, I keep any and all parts that I think might be useful. So I keep all of the screws, I keep all of the springs. We need a slightly longer one, I think. And that way, when something like this comes along and I need a replacement catch spring, I can find one. There we go. Alright, now, the reflex is reverse plunger, which means there's not a whole lot you can do as far as performance upgrades to them. But they're neat little pistols. Need to make sure that we've got the plunger tube aligned correctly. Make sure we've got the catch spring all the way back into the housing. Now we should be able to put it back together. And actually get it to close. I mentioned previously the concept of back threading, and that's what I'm doing here, where instead of just twisting right to tighten it, I twist back until you can feel it click into place, and that's the threads lining up, and that way you're not cross-threading and chewing up your threads, which will eventually wear out the screw posts, and then the blaster, you won't be able to close it anymore. Alright. I may have messed up. No, we're going to have to open it back up again. I wasn't paying attention. Make sure we don't spring our springs. What I forgot was the return spring, the slide return spring, which in some blasters you can get that peg in there after you've closed it, but this is not one of those. So you have to put the one side of the slide in and put in the, get that aligned first. Oh, what seems to be the conundrum here? All lined up. Barrel's lined up. Catch is lined up. Spring is in place. Alright, now we should be able to... There we go. Once you've taken the screws out of a blaster once, they should go back in easily. So if you're having a hard time getting the screw back in, you are cross-threading your screw, and you are going to eventually wear out that screw post. So make sure you back thread first. And then we are going to replace those missing 2 screws. Again, materials, having them is handy. All right. It lives! Fantastic. So the lesson here is having the right materials. Save parts from your dead blasters, or occasionally go to Goodwill and just buy blasters. There's a lot of blasters that are good for parts. Deploys are a gold mine for parts. People always rag on me for buying deploys, but they have so many screws and so many small springs, and the shells are good for all sorts of integrations. So I buy blasters sometimes just for the parts. Tech 6s are lousy blasters for using, but the springs can be used to upgrade pretty much any of the magazine-fed Nerf blasters. So yeah, parts, and collect them. Get little bins to sort them. It's definitely handy. I've got them sorted vaguely by size. I have all the springs sorted by size, and so it makes it really easy to go, oh, this spring is all messed up and will no longer properly catch and release. So I need to replace it. So having a bin full of springs is useful. This was sent to me by Aaron Kelman, so thank you for sending me that. All right, well, I will be getting these blasters sent back, and I look forward to the next wave of blasters to repair. Thank you guys for sending in your submissions. I hope this was helpful, and thank you guys for watching.